Are Israel's rabbis saints or a threat? This question isn't just a modern-day conundrum, it has roots that stretch back through centuries of Jewish history. It's a question that sparks debate and ignites passions. People from all walks of life have strong opinions, and these discussions often spill out into the streets, cafes, and homes of Israel. To understand, we gotta rewind. We need to journey back to a time when the role of the rabbi was purely spiritual, untainted by the complexities of modern politics. Back in the day, rabbis were the OGs, the original spiritual guides. They were the pillars of their communities, the ones everyone turned to for wisdom and guidance. They were the keepers of the Torah, the wise men you went to for advice on everything from marriage to kosher pickles. Their knowledge was vast, and their counsel was sought after. No political maneuvering, no power grabs, just pure, unadulterated wisdom. They were dedicated to their faith and their community, living lives of simplicity and devotion. Think of them like your favorite teacher, the one who made learning fun and actually listened to your teenage angst. They were approachable, kind, and genuinely interested in the well-being of their students. They were respected, revered even, but their power was rooted in knowledge and spiritual guidance. Their influence came from their ability to connect with people on a deeply personal level. Politics? That was a whole other ballgame. The rabbis of old had no interest in political power. Their focus was entirely on spiritual matters. These early rabbis were the bedrock of their communities. They were the ones who settled disputes, interpreted religious law, and provided spiritual comfort to those in need. They settled disputes, interpreted religious law, and provided spiritual comfort. Their role was essential in maintaining the social and spiritual fabric of their communities. They were the glue that held everything together. Without them, the community would have been lost, adrift in a sea of uncertainty. But times change, and so do the roles people play. As society evolved, so too did the responsibilities and expectations placed upon rabbis. As the Jewish people fought for a homeland, the role of the rabbi began to shift. The struggle for a national identity brought new challenges and new opportunities for leadership. The lines between religion and politics started to blur. Rabbis found themselves in positions of political influence, navigating the complex landscape of a burgeoning nation. And that's where things get really interesting, folks. The intersection of faith and politics has created a dynamic and sometimes contentious environment, one that continues to evolve to this day. The establishment of Israel in 1948 changed everything. It marked the beginning of a new era, not just for the Jewish people, but for the entire Middle East. The creation of a Jewish state brought with it a unique set of challenges and opportunities. Suddenly, rabbis weren't just spiritual leaders, they were thrust into the heart of a brand new nation. They had to navigate the complexities of a modern state while staying true to ancient traditions. This was no small feat. The chief rabbinate was formed, a central authority meant to guide the Jewish people in their newfound homeland. This institution was tasked with overseeing religious affairs, from kosher laws to marriage and divorce. Think of it like this. You go from teaching a small class to running a whole school district. The responsibilities were immense, and the pressure was on to make decisions that would affect the entire nation. The stakes are higher, the decisions more complex. Every choice had far-reaching consequences, impacting not just the religious community but the secular population as well. And let me tell you, not everyone agrees on the curriculum. The debates were fierce, with different factions vying for influence and control. Some rabbis embraced this newfound political power. They saw it as an opportunity to shape Israeli society according to religious law, believing that this was their divine mandate. They saw it as an opportunity to shape Israeli society according to religious law. They believed that integrating religious principles into the fabric of the state would ensure its moral and spiritual integrity. Others, however, worried about the dangers of mixing religion and politics. They feared that political involvement would compromise their spiritual mission and lead to corruption. They feared it would corrupt the purity of their faith and lead to division. The tension between these two perspectives created a rift within the religious community. And boy, were they right about that division. The debates grew more intense and the lines between religious and political spheres became increasingly blurred. Fast forward a few decades and you've got rabbis on both sides of the political spectrum battling it out over everything from marriage equality to military service. The issues at stake were not just religious but also deeply political. The once clear lines had become hopelessly entangled. The role of rabbis had evolved from purely spiritual leaders to influential political figures shaping the destiny of a nation. Now, let's talk about the Shah's party, a significant player in Israel's political landscape. This ultra-Orthodox political powerhouse has become synonymous with the intersection of religion and politics in Israel. Founded in 1984, Shah's has grown from a small faction to a major force, representing the interests of Sephardic and Mizrahi Jews. They're like the political arm of the Rabbinate, pushing for policies that favor their interpretation of Jewish law. Their influence extends beyond mere politics. It permeates the very fabric of Israeli society. Imagine a group of lobbyists, but instead of suits, they wear black hats and long beards. Their traditional attire is a powerful symbol of their commitment to their faith and their community. They're masters at using their influence to get what they want, whether it's increased funding for religious schools or stricter Sabbath observance laws. Their ability to mobilize their base and negotiate with other political factions is unparalleled, and they've been remarkably successful. Their strategic maneuvers have often placed them in key positions within the government, allowing them to shape policy in significant ways. The Rabbi's Law 2, passed in 2025, is a perfect example. This law expanded the powers of the Religious Services Minister, a position frequently held by a Shah's member. This controversial law gave the Religious Services Minister, often a member of Shah's, even more control over religious life in Israel. It allowed them to influence everything from marriage and divorce to kosher certification. Critics cried foul, claiming it was a blatant power grab that further politicized the Rabbinate. They argued that it undermined the secular nature of the state and gave undue power to religious authorities. They argued that it alienated secular Israelis and deepened the divide between the religious and the non-religious. The law became a flashpoint in the ongoing debate about the role of religion in Israeli politics. But Shah's? They were just getting started. Their ambitions and strategies continue to evolve, ensuring that their influence remains a defining feature of Israeli politics. But wait, there's more! As if things weren't messy enough, the chief rabbinate itself became a hotbed of controversy. Power struggles, accusations of corruption, and even a dash of nepotism. It's enough to make your head spin. Think of it like a reality TV show, but instead of fighting over roses, they're fighting over who gets to be the top rabbi. And trust me, these contestants don't play nice. For years, the two chief rabbi positions, one Ashkenazi, one Sephardic, have been vacant. Why? Because no one can agree on who should fill them. The selection process is fraught with political maneuvering, backroom deals, and enough drama to make Shakespeare jealous. It's a mess, folks. A glorious, fascinating, head-scratching mess. And just when you thought it couldn't get any more complicated, enter the battle for women's recognition in the Rabbinate. In 2024, the High Court ruled that knowledgeable women could be considered rabbis for the Chief Rabbi Election Assembly. Sounds simple, right? Wrong. This decision sent shockwaves through the ultra-Orthodox establishment. They argued that it violated Jewish law and threatened the very fabric of their tradition. Protests erupted, accusations flew, and the debate over women's role in the Rabbinate raged on. It's a classic example of the clash between tradition and modernity. On one side, you have those who believe that religious law is immutable, that the roles of men and women are clearly defined. On the other side, you have those who believe that tradition must evolve, that women deserve an equal place at the table. Who's right? That's for you to decide. But one thing's for sure, this debate is far from over.